Welcome to another episode of The Beauty Way, and it's such a pleasure for me to introduce this sparkly human today, Kerri Chinner, who is someone for me. She is somebody who constantly holds me to my highest version of myself because of the frequency that she holds in the world. So I'm really delighted to have you here today, Kerri.
Mm. Thank you, darling. I'm so excited to be here too. I'm so glad we made it happen.
Me too. So, as I was reading through your bio, one of the things which I know a little bit about, but was really intriguing, the way that you had written it was when you were held captive on a station in the center of Australia for 5 months, I think it was. Can you share a little bit about that? Because knowing you and who you are and and you and I have spoken about this before, the frequency of light that you hold, that's such an intense experience for someone. And so I'd love you to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, great. Thank you, darling. Thank you. Yes, I just as a background, I came from a very strict religious upbringing. And at 18, I had a bit of an argument with my mum. And I said, well, I'm leaving home. And she said, well, I'd like to see how you're going to manage that. And I applied for a job on a cattle station out of rebellion. And I got the job. And so off I went. And this was remote, like really in the middle of the Sturt Stony Desert in the middle of Australia. And I went there very naive, having come from Bible class, church, Sunday school. So, like incredibly naive. And I went to this place and yeah, I ended up being held captive there by a man who had escaped from jail for attacking a guy with an axe. And he was fully head to toe covered in tattoos. I had never seen or come across anything like that before in my life. And yeah, I couldn't speak. I had my family threatened. I had everything threatened. There was a mail plane that used to come every Saturday that would bring the perishables and the mail. And I would write letters to my family saying, please help, please get me off of here. And his role was to look after the mail and take the bag to the plane. So he would take the letters out. They would never get sent, but he would say, I have all the details. I have your addresses of your friends, of your family. I know where they live. You try and leave, and I'm even getting a bit, yeah, I'll hunt you down and not only kill you, but them. So as an 18-year-old coming from a church background, I was terrified. I didn't know how to speak up. And of course, the shame of what had been happening to me was so against everything my religion had taught me and my family had held for us kids. I felt I could never disappoint my parents. That this had been happening to me, so I kept it a secret. And it wasn't until I think I did get away. Some terrible things happened, and a family came and got me in the middle of the night and helped me escape. But that was traumatic in and of itself. And it was a big process. It was a really big process. But throughout that time, I have to say, as horrific as what was going on, because of the remoteness, the only thing I had access to was Mother Nature, like being out in the middle of the desert, as you would know in Australia, the sky, the stars, the earth. It was the only thing I could draw upon for nurturing, for safety, for communion. And so I think I was given the opportunity very early on to learn from the elements, from Mother Nature, that there is love, there is support, there is a way through, regardless of what's going on. So I think that held me in really good stead, and to not go down the rabbit hole of self-loathing and
Amazing.
self-hatred. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like such an intense experience for any 18-year-old. And the question that came was, were you aware at the time of that connection to nature? Like, were you aware of, okay, I'm held captive here, so I'm going to do these things to connect me to nature? Was that something that was an awareness for you? Because I asked that question because I know when I sort of began to have my awakening, I was drawn to things, like my soul was calling me to things, but I wasn't necessarily fully aware of what was going on. Did you have that awareness at that age?
No, I don't think I had the conscious awareness. But as a child, as a kid, I used to spend a lot of time in nature, just riding my bike in the paddocks, through the soursopes, and creating worlds and dreams and visions and fantasies. And I think very early on, I had the capacity to be in nature and dream my world into being without being conscious. Because when I look back now and think of all those little fantasies and dreams I used to spend so much time playing out in my head, I've actually lived out. Like I was dreaming my future self way back then when I was 8, 10, 12. And so it wasn't conscious, but it was just a natural gift of mine to be in
Connection.
nature and to feel my heart and to use my visualization in my mind. And
So
so
beautiful. And
mm,
so many people would talk about that experience as heavily traumatic, which it
mm,
was, which they were obviously, that was obviously an aspect of it. And this pathological way that we, in our Western society, there would be this this aspect that would say, post-traumatic stress from that particular situation. What do you say about that?
I look back and I think now the most damaging part of it was the secret, holding the secret. When I think about how much I have come through, like it led me to a path of healing through body work, and like the gift I got from healing the trauma through my body work healing sessions, that I ended up training in it because I went, okay, this is really impactful by clearing the trauma from the body. So there was definitely trauma and definitely patterns that I took on to survive an intolerable reality that needed to be healed or broken down or dissolved. So that journey still needed to happen. But the gift in that is that that's what led me to be able to do what I do now, and to do it from a place of true embodiment and from a place of absolute truth, that I hold this paradigm that I know my spirit, my soul was not damaged or hurt or traumatized by what happened. I know my personality, my emotions, and my mental and my body were, definitely, that's without question. But that eternal part of me, and so my work has been about how do I strengthen my relationship with that part of myself to bring that into full embodiment, to be able to manage healing and working with those human aspects of myself. So it's that true marriage of the human and the being, just wow, we can both work together. So I don't identify as my whole self was traumatized. Yes, this part was, but
I love that piece, because that's it, isn't it? When the natives say that depression is a spiritual awakening awaiting to happen, and what you're saying is that that aspect, that trauma was the key, that, and this has been my experience also, was the key to help to drive you into the next level. It's that aspect of the quantum shift, or the ascension, or the embodiment of the larger being of who I am. So allowing myself to be guided by my soul. I love that, because that experience is so is so intense, and for you to have been in that experience and now to be living the way that you are and to be helping others in the way that you are is embodying this full spectrum of not just only our humanity, but our entire being, this multidimensional being that we are. And yeah, I love that so much. That's one of the reasons why you are such a beautiful divine mirror for me, and I love having you in my life. And so so I want to ask you, like, what you do now, if you can share a little bit about that, and this aspect of the beauty way, which is such a shamanic aspect, and you embody so much of those shamanic principles. What is it what is the gift that you offer to the world now that weaves the beauty way into existence?
Beautiful question. Thank you, darling. Thank you. The gift that I offer the world is really holding that light of the spirit in every individual that comes to me or comes into my field. I have this tattoo that I had, it's got the hummingbird, which is a representative. This I had done a couple of years ago that is a representation of the beauty way. I also have another tattoo on my body that I always joke about. This is my calling card, or my business card, and it's of a skull with a crown and the roses and the pearls. And I say this for me represents that we all have to go to the dark side, into our shadow, into those places that what here needs to die. What here needs to die in order for us to be able to fully embody the light. What needs to be released so that we can hold more of the light of God in our own field. And that can be really scary and really traumatic. When I had to do that when I was 18, I did that alone. But the gift I offer is that I will walk alongside someone. I know how to journey to the underworld and to the lower worlds. It's through my shamanic training. I know how to hold someone in that process while still holding the light of their true self, of their highest version. And I think that is what creates a lot of safety. It's what creates a lot of capacity for people to go to those traumatic or scary places, because my experience is, and I've had several visceral moments where when I have confronted my biggest fears, I can feel the joy that is sitting right there. In fact, one of my biggest meltdowns when I first started to confront my healing was I was on a massage table and I was sobbing, these great heaving sobs. And whilst I was doing it, my mind was saying, oh, this group's going to think that I've lost it, I've gone crazy. But the internal voice, I'll never forget, was this little person going, this is great, keep going, keep going. It was like this place, celebrate, yes, go there. And it was like, I didn't believe in any of this stuff. I was such a, I was so cynical, and yet I have never forgotten it. And it's so true that on the other side of our fear, of where we're afraid to go, sits our greatest light, is where our spirit resides. And so it's all a soul retrieval journey.
Yeah. And I love the story about, the cynicism and the skepticism, because I always say the skepticism makes the skeptic makes the best believer, because the skeptic is prepared to question and like go beyond what their mind is telling them. And when you were telling that story, I was just remembering there was a time not long after James got back from Iraq, and so there was a fair bit of trauma going on in my field, and one of my girlfriends did Reiki, and she came and did a Reiki session on me, and she put her hands on me, and I'd not had Reiki really before. And I had it a few times with her, but she put her hands on me, and all of a sudden I started spinning. My eyes were closed and I started to feel like it sped up, like I was in a washing machine, and I started to feel really sick. And I'm lying there and I'm thinking, I really needed to stop. No, Kirsty, you can't stop. You can't stop. And so I had this like two, and it was this courage in me. And there was one point where I opened one eye to see what was going on, and she was just sitting there with her hands, and I'm like, all right, this is all going on for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
courage to like just keep going because you know what's on the other side. So powerful.
Exactly. And to move beyond the conditioning, because I know my skepticism was birthed from being brought up in a religion that called itself the truth.
Mm.
And I was like, there's some things that aren't matching up as the truth here, that how, and so whenever I'm presented with, do this way, this is the way, I'm like, yeah, right. Okay, I want to have the experience first and I'll make the decision. So yeah. I
Yeah.
have a big radar for
Yeah.
that.
I know what the truth is. And I wanted to just circle back for a moment as well about that aspect of shame, because that it is such a powerful piece, isn't it? If we're holding on to shame of any kind, we won't allow ourselves to be seen. We won't actually allow ourselves to take that next courageous step. And so when you're working with someone and you're experiencing that, and you talked about the safe space, what is it that you can share can help somebody to allow themselves to just be with that feeling, like that feeling that is all pervasive that comes up with shame in that moment, to move beyond and into that next little into that next little joy aspect?
Yeah, beautiful, darling. One of the things that I share with my clients, and it's also a piece that we share within the Hoffman process, of which am a facilitator of, and we teach about this in there as well, that shame, we map out the shame circles. So from that core of our essence, and then the layer of shame, how that gets created, and then the protective layers that we add on top of that to move away from shame. And what I really share is that when we look at that diagram, if we're out in our behavioral cover-ups, our perfectionism, all of those patterns to move away from feeling our shame, which eventually leads to addictions, whether that be workaholic or, ingesting addictions. If we actually go back and go into our shame, we'll see that we're the closest to our own essence, the closest to our spirit. So the pathway to healing our shame is to sit in that, to be able to be with that, but also to share it with a benevolent witness. Our shame grows when we hold it as secret. It's in the sharing of it. And I think Brene Brown talks about this in a beautiful way. She talks about if you put shame in a petri dish and you fed it secrecy and judgment, it would just take over. Whereas you put the light of sharing with another, of telling someone who can hold that and who will respect and hold space for you, that shame will dismantle. It's in the feeling of it, the coming into Aini, right relationship with that, and being seen, that it dissolves, it dismantles. And so, yeah, that's the greatest pathway to healing shame.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, just being seen. And that is what stops us, isn't it? Like we're stopped in our tracks. Actually, I was having a conversation with my daughter this morning, and she's really choosing to step up. And I was saying to her, all of this is coming forth because you are choosing to step up, and you're at a choice point right now. You can move forward and feel that, or you can just allow yourself to be in that freeze response. And also that piece about sitting with it and not distracting ourselves. Super powerful. Thank you. So the next question that I had was, what really inspires you about life?
Oh
Life,
my
life,
goodness.
all of life.
Yeah. What inspires me? Well, I love learning. I love always expanding into what's possible. What I love about life is that there is always this opportunity to see through the eyes of the heart, to embody the beauty way, to create a reality that is something other than perhaps a challenging moment or a challenging reality that we're living in. That I always said, for me, prison would be taking away my capacity to create. For me, what inspires is this: if a challenge comes up or something happens, it's like, great, what can I create from this? How can I really bring forth my future self, the highest version of me, and bring her, throw a grappling hook into the future and bring her back into the now and transmute what is occurring here? For me, I find that so exciting. And I just love that life keeps giving us invitations to do that, whether it be just, like Thailand. I live here in Thailand, in Phuket, and the traffic is nuts. And I know that my partner used to go, oh, I used to get uptight, and I used to get then uptight from the ripple effect of his. And I would say, how about we reframe it? We're both animal lovers. How about we just say, isn't it great? He's rushing, there's a vet rushing to the animal hospital to save an animal's life. And so Thailand has just got the best people that are so committed to doing it. In the end, we would laugh when these crazy drivers, oh, there goes another vet. Now, is it true? No. But does it shift our frequency? Yes, it does.
It's the truth.
Yeah, and it's like it doesn't have to be factually true, but from a frequency point of view, how can we be continually adding, contributing, rather than detracting or contracting and creating negative ripples? And yeah, so I love to play with existence like that.
I love it. So when you talk about from a frequency point of view, and we're talking about reframing, we're really saying the way that we're choosing to think about it is creating the experience. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And so when you said, because just for people that are listening, when you talked about future self and that aspect, I think would be quite foreign to people, like being understanding, right? How do I get my future self into here? And so the way that I understand my future self is she's the one who's already living the life that I'm dreaming of. So what would you say? How would you say that you best connect with her? Like you're reframing it and you're thinking about it differently, best connect with her.
Great. I'll give a little bit of a context to that in the shamanic training that I've been trained in, there's 4 levels of perception, 4 levels of engagement, ways we can engage with the world. And they use their animal archetypes, and I don't change them culturally because they just make sense. There's serpent, which is very black and white. It's like, yep, I'm not having a good day. It's just the way it is. Yeah, or I'll use the example of a headache. Oh, I've got a headache, you take a tablet. That's serpent, black and white. The next level up is jaguar, and that's the realm of the mind and emotions. And this is where we create story. Oh, I've got a headache. Oh, I wonder, maybe is it my pillow? Or perhaps I haven't been drinking enough water. So we start to connect the dots like the jaguars, sniff the air. We start to pull information but it can also be very seductive, and we can wrap story around and get caught in the jungle of our circumstance. The next level up is hummingbird, which is the beauty way. They call it the beauty way. And in hummingbird, we're asked, it's a level of the soul where we're asked to dip our beak into every flower which is every circumstance. It mightn't look like a flower, but see it as a flower. Dip your beak in and extract the nectar. What's the nectar here? That if I drink this, I will be strengthened for my continued life's journey, because I am so much more than this physical limitation or perceived limitations. The next level up is the level of eagle, and this is the level of spirit. And this is where we are in that unity consciousness, where we see through the eyes of great eagle that can see what has happened in the past and what has happened in the future, and that it is already done. It's already done. You can see, I'm not going to be here forever. It's already, I've been through that. And so this is where our future self resides. So for me, how I access my future self is I literally visualize myself rising up above my, whatever my circumstance is here, and seeing through the eyes of eagle, and seeing that, you know, oh, I'm not going to be homeless forever. I've just had a situation where I've had to move out of the house I've been in for 5.5 years, and I had to move out really quickly. Now, rising above that to see I'm not going to be homeless, I'm not going to be in a bad situation. How can I bring her back here and go, now what needs to be done? Great, call this person, speak to this, let your friends know you need help. And so it's actually rising above this contraction or the jungle aspect, and being, that's the next piece, is in eagle. We don't strive for peace or try to create love or peace. We be peace. We be love. We be the embodiment. And of course, that calls forth all of those threads of existence that are going to give us just us anyway, but we are a connect with that future version.
Amazing. I got goosebumps while you were talking. So good. There was a little bit of distortion in the last bit that you were saying, but I think it'll be okay. Oh yeah, there was so much beauty in what you just said. And you know, the greatest thing that I took away from it was that aspect of eagle, and being able to rise up above the circumstances of what's happening now. And when we can do that, we actually move beyond fear, because we don't need to be afraid in this moment, because I know that my future self, she's already sorted it out. And so the eagle can see that. And I love, yeah, I love that visual, and I love the idea of moving up beyond it. So yeah, massive goosebumps while you were sharing that little piece. Thank you so much.
Oh, pleasure, darling. And what I love about this is that it's all about the embodiment of the frequency, because this is what we work with, that, and it's becoming more common to have this understanding in, you know, in the mainstream, is that everything is energy, everything is frequency. So essentially all we're doing is we are vibrating or oscillating at the frequency that is the match for that which we desire. And this is what I do with my cutting edge frequency technologies with bodies and health. It's like we just align the cellular oscillations of dis-ease into the highest oscillation of health, and support the body, support the mind and the emotions through the shamanic work, the shamanic mentoring, to hold that frequency, so that all of us, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, etherically, energetically, we come into calibration of, you know, the God light that we were created as. So,
Well, and just as you finished saying that, the cicadas started going crazy here. And when I hear the cicadas, to me, that's like they're opening a portal, and they're singing like, yes. So with your frequency technologies, there might be people listening that are like, oh, I'm really interested in that. Do people have to be with you in person to be able to access that?
no, this is fantastic. When COVID came, I invested in other cutting edge technologies that could work through the quantum, because I wasn't able to fly back to Australia and work with my clients there. So I now have clients all over the world, and not in person, and it works through the quantum. And yeah, it's beautiful. It is actually really much of the focus of my work these days, is really working in creating that, the physical vessel to be that, to have the capacity to hold the light that is coming into this planet, that is calling us to evolve into Homo luminous. We're moving out of Homo sapien, that denser carbon kind of body with the spirit that's out there that we have to die and leave before we can evolve, into just, wow, I'm the Homo luminous that can hold the light and the light of my spirit, and together we, in unification, the divine masculine and feminine, totally embodied as one, and we get to create from there, which is stunning, exciting. Another thing
And that's and that's the unity consciousness that you were talking about with Eagle, wasn't it? And so allowing our bodies to be able to hold that field of light, we get to be more of Eagle more of the time.
Yeah, absolutely, darling, because we'd all know that we can think, and we know mentally about, how we can embody light and be the best version of ourselves, and emotionally, yeah, but can we hold it in the physical when we're triggered, when we're activated? That's the challenge, and that's the work I do now, is how do we support the physical body to bring, the light of our spirit into full embodiment, so we can create heaven here on earth. So
awesome. Thank you so much. So the question that I've been asking, and this actually loops us back to the beginning of this call, is if you were to be standing in front of your 18-year-old self now, what is the advice that you would give her?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and it's such a loop back. It would be like, speak up, keep speaking up, keep telling, do not keep secrets. Just speak up until you find someone. Whatever has happened to you, whatever has been done to you, or whatever choices you've made, it is not your fault. It is not your fault, and nothing can minimize your lovability and your beauty and your worthiness. Keep speaking up until you find someone who will hold your hand and love you and support you through whatever it is. And you're never too old to take that on. It's a pathway to
and never
wellness.
too young. Hey?
Never too young either. No, it is the pathway to wellness across all dynamics. I believe that's my perspective.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And do you, as somebody who lives the beauty way with such beauty, the beauty way with such, do you have anything else that you want to share about the beauty way before we complete today?
I would just like to say that for me, the beauty way is always asking, where can I see through the eyes of my heart? Where can I, instead of seeing it as it looks like or as it's occurring, how can I drop that down and see through the eyes of the heart? How can I use whatever experience is being shown to me as an opportunity to embody more of who God created me to be, to embody more light? And so we can always be up-leveling, upgrading our reality, even in the most mundane circumstances, even with the biggest triggers of people, is rather than judging someone, wow, they're giving me the opportunity to not take things personally, or to get off my own high horse, or instead of it being about them. And beauty will unfold from there.
And those are often the best situations, aren't they? The mundane ones, and the ones where we're like, oh, that they give us the best opportunity to embody the beauty way, don't they?
I love the mundane. I am such a stand for the mundane. I am such a stand for being so human and mundane. You know, this whole thing about, oh, I'm spiritual. It's like, no, I really here to embrace humanity and being in my humanness, and that means the mundane. But how can I elevate that from a frequency point of view?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So amazing. I know there are so many more little rabbit holes I can go down. So maybe you'll come back one day and I'll ask you some more.
Oh, I'd love to, darling. I'm happy to talk about all of this. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I love you so much. And yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing this podcast with the world.
Oh, darling, I just want to say thank you. You are amazing. You are an incredible light. And what a gift you are as just this anchored, grounded, light saber of wisdom that you just earth into wherever you are and whoever you touch. So thank you, darling, for being a part of my life and allowing me to be a part of this. Love you lots.
Thank you so much.
Mm.